The sound of laughter filled the classroom as you walked past, gripping your books tightly. You weren't eavesdropping, but when you heard Jungkook's name, you couldn't help but slow your steps. I heard Jungkook got married. What? No way. With who? Some girl from an arranged marriage, but he never talks about her, so I guess he doesn't care. He won't talk about it, but even if thinking that he got married itself is hard to believe, I think it's just a rumor. He's not the type to settle down so soon. I don't even think he was looking for someone, and if it was an arranged marriage, my sympathy for that girl. A sharp pang hit your chest. You already knew your marriage with Jungkook wasn't like a normal one, but hearing it from someone else made it feel worse, and then but we can't blame him though, as if I would ever marry some random girl. Your body went cold, their opinion shouldn't matter, but you couldn't help but to feel you have put yourself in something you thought would be a fairy tale, but it can also break you completely. You turn your head slightly just enough to see him, John Jungkook, your husband, leaning against his desk with an expression of pure disinterest. Someone scoffed. Wait, so it's true? You're married? Jungkook rolled his eyes. Even if I did. Why you have so much interest, huh? He said, looking in an annoyed tone. Your eyes met and you felt your hands tremble. Jungkook turned his face to the other side, ignoring you. Damn, that's harsh. Is she that bad? Jungkook let out a dry chuckle. It's not about that. I just never wanted to get married, especially not to someone I don't even like. Something inside you shattered. You knew your marriage wasn't romantic. You knew he never looked at you the way you looked at him, but you had foolishly thought, hoped that maybe with time things would change. But now you knew he didn't just ignore you, he didn't even want people to know you existed. Taking a shaky breath, you turned around and walked away, your heart heavy with the decision. You were done. After coming back from university, you were sitting in the living room in front of TV with your coffee in your hands. The TV was on, but your mind was somewhere else. You know Jungkook since you were in middle school, and to be honest, you were in love with him from the very first day. He's not rude, not arrogant, and he was good before you guys got married. After the marriage, it's like he changed drastically. You live in the same house, but he doesn't look you the way you supposed he would look at you when you'll become his wife. The door clicked open and Jungkook walked in. You were sitting on the couch watching him as he stepped inside the living room. His shoulders looked tense, his dark hair slightly messy as if he had run his fingers through it one too many times. He didn't even glance at you. With a sigh, he dropped himself onto the couch across from you, leaning his head back, eyes shut for a moment. Then after a bit of silence he spoke. You made coffee? His voice was casual, but there was an undertone of expectation, as if he was waiting for the usual response. But today you didn't say anything. You just took a sip from your own cup, the warmth of the coffee doing nothing to ease the coldness in your chest. Jungkook opened his eyes, turning his head slightly to look at you. Usually by now you would have already stood up, offering to make him a fresh cup, but today nothing. His brows furrowed, and he sat up straighter. You didn't make mine? You met his gaze briefly before looking back at the TV. No, I didn't know if you wanted one. Jungkook blinked. That was different. He didn't know why it unsettled him, but it did. You always ask, he said, his tone sounded quieter now. You let out a small hum, not confirming nor denying it. Silence stretched between you, thick and heavy. Jungkook rubbed his palms together, eyes still on you, as if waiting for you to offer again, but you didn't. And for the first time since your marriage, he felt a distance. He got up and walked into his room while you watched him go. What you heard today wasn't something you can let go easily. Jungkook was cold from the start, it was his nature, but those words he said when he thought you weren't listening, and the reality that he doesn't want anyone to know you are his wife, it all shattered you. Jungkook didn't think much of it that night. Maybe you were just tired, maybe he was overthinking it, but then it started happening again. The next morning, you didn't wait for him at the breakfast table like you usually did. At university, you no longer came to check if he had eaten. You stopped calling him when he was out late. You weren't avoiding him, you were just indifferent, and that was worse. One evening, he found you sitting on the balcony, a book in your hands, completely lost in thought. He leaned against the doorframe, watching you for a moment before speaking. "You didn't ask if I wanted dinner," he said, trying to keep his voice neutral. It's not like he expects you to cook or something. It's just a way to start a conversation because he wasn't sure what was happening. You didn't look up. "There's food in the kitchen." Jungkook felt something strange settle in his chest, a discomfort he didn't recognize. He walked closer, stopping beside your chair. "Are you upset about something?" That made you pause. Finally, you lifted your gaze, eyes locking with his, and for the first time he saw it, the exhaustion, the disappointment, the quiet acceptance. It hit him like a punch to the gut. You had already given up. "Why would I be?" you asked softly. Jungkook had no answer because deep down he knew. He had been the one pushing you away since the moment you got married, and now for the first time he was feeling the absence of something he never acknowledged before. You stood up from your chair, brushing past him as if his presence didn't affect you anymore. Jungkook turned, watching as you walked back inside the apartment without another word. His jaw clenched, guilt washed over him. What was this? He should have been relieved, right? Wasn't this what he wanted? Then why did it feel like something inside him was breaking? Jungkook started noticing it more in the following days. The way you no longer searched for him in the crowded hallways at university, the way you stopped waiting for him to come home, the way you smiled at others but never at him. In the university, students were still curious to find out whom Jungkook married, and they were trying their best, but was unaware that his wife was among them only. It's just no one would have believed even if you tell them that you were the one he married. For years, you had always looked at him like he was someone special. Even before marriage, in school, you had always been there, offering small gestures of care that he never properly acknowledged. He didn't even realize how much he had gotten used to your love until now, until it was gone. Jungkook was sitting in the cafeteria, a little away from you and your friends. His eyes were on you only. He never thought you would ignore him so badly and it will affect him like this. This marriage was not what he wanted. He was not ready for marriage, but because of his parents he had to. He didn't think he would start liking you like this. Taeyong, his best friend, and the one and only who knows the secret of your and Jungkook's marriage, caught him looking at you. Are you going to make everyone question the way you are looking at her? They will suspect. Jungkook came out of his thoughts and looked at him. I think I messed up. She has become so distant lately. I don't know why. Taeyong arched his brow. Distant? You never really asked her for attention in the first place. His jaw tightened. That may be true. But she used to care, even if it was quiet. Now it's like I'm just a ghost. Maybe she finally realized that she's tired of wasting her time on a guy who doesn't care. Taeyong said half jokingly. Jungkook glared at him, but deep down he knew he was right. Later that day, as you walked out of a lecture, you caught Jungkook watching you from afar. He approached hesitantly in the corridor. "Why aren't you looking at me anymore?" he asked. His tone was a mix of confusion and hurt. You stopped and faced him, your expression measured. "Maybe because I'm done reaching out when it feels like you are not even here for me." Jungkook frowned, struggling for words. "I never asked you to shower me with affection. I thought you knew." "No, I didn't, because I was stupid. I didn't believe in anything but to love you. But when my care is met with indifference, it leaves an emptiness that neither of us can ignore." For a brief moment, the corridor filled with only the sound of your footsteps as you continued walking, leaving Jungkook with more questions than answers. Jungkook was losing his mind. The distance between you was unbearable. One night, he found himself sitting alone in the dark living room, his hands clasped together, thinking about how much things had changed, thinking about how he had been the one to change them. He had been an idiot, an absolute idiot. He had pushed you away, ignored you, dismissed you, acted as if your love was an inconvenience, and now he wanted it back. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply before making a decision. He couldn't let this continue. He wouldn't. So when you stepped out of your room later that night, he didn't give you the chance to ignore him. Instead, he grabbed your wrist, stopping you in your tracks. You blinked, looking up at him in surprise. "Jungkook." He stared at you, his jaw tightening. "Talk to me." You frowned. "About what?" Jungkook's grip on your wrist loosened, but he didn't let go. "About why you are acting like I don't exist." You let out a quiet laugh, but it held no humor. "I'm not ignoring you, Jungkook." "You are," he insisted, stepping closer, "and I hate it." You stared at him, eyes unreadable. Then you exhaled, letting your shoulders relax. "Jungkook, I'm just giving you what you wanted." His chest ached at your words. "What I wanted." You nodded. "You never wanted me as your wife. You didn't even want people to know about our marriage. You made it clear that this arrangement meant nothing to you." Jungkook's stomach twisted. He had said that, and now he wished he could take it back. "Did you ever think how that made me feel?" Jungkook's throat felt dry. Of course he hadn't. He had been too caught up in himself, in his reluctance towards this marriage, that he never even thought about your feelings, and now it was too late. Or was it? Jungkook took a deep breath. "I was wrong." You looked at him, waiting. "I was stupid. I didn't see what was in front of me." For the first time in weeks, Jungkook was truly looking at you, not as an unwanted wife. Not as someone forced into his life, but as someone he should have never taken for granted. And now he had to fix it. He had to earn you back, and this time he wouldn't stop until he did. You were about to walk away, but he held your wrist tightly. You looked at him. "Jungkook, why? Can we start over? Because I know I can't fix or take back what I said. It was also because I wasn't serious, but now I am. And I want to show you too." Your heart ached. He is the man you loved ever since you were kids. Even after knowing it was one-sided love, you never gave up. But when you actually realized how much you were hurting yourself, you stopped expecting, and now he wants you to believe him once again. Give him a second chance. Words aren't enough, Jungkook. You made me feel like our marriage was nothing more than a secret inconvenience. I need to feel like I matter. He nodded. I will show you. Just trust me this once. You don't know why you got ready to give him a second chance, but this feels right to you because this was just the starting of your marriage and you knew you guys have to learn a lot, have to go through so many ups and downs, and this was a step towards that future because if you failed this once, you might walk away. It was a crisp afternoon on campus, and you were seated in a crowded lecture hall during a special departmental assembly. The air hums with casual chatter, and you were lost in thoughts, still reeling from the weight of the last night. Suddenly, the room quiets as Jungkook stepped up to the front of the stage. His eyes, once distant, now burn with an uncharacteristic determination. Everyone, I have an announcement to make. A murmur rippled through the audience. You felt your pulse quicken as every eye turned towards him. He paused, scanning the room. You all know I'm married, and for a long time I kept that part of my life hidden. I never spoke about it, not because it wasn't important, but because I was afraid to admit the truth, even to myself. He took a deep breath. Today, I'm done hiding. I'm proud of my marriage, and I want you all to know that my wife is Vian. A stunned silence fell over the room. In the crowd, classmates exchanged incredulous glances and whispers started. You were standing there, surprised. It was really unexpected, but Jungkook didn't seem to regret it even a bit. Hwaiyan? No way, I had no idea. Really? That's her? The one always so quiet and composed? I thought it was a rumor. I can't believe it. Up until now, I acted as though our marriage was nothing more than a secret arrangement, an inconvenience I could hide away. But I see clearly now how my indifference hurt the person I love the most. I was wrong, and I'm here to change that. After a moment's pause, Jungkook gestured towards the back of the hall. Wyan, would you come up here with me? Your eyes meet his from the back of the room. There's a mix of uncertainty and longing in his gaze, a silent plea for understanding. Slowly you rise and make your way towards the stage. Every step feels heavy, yet somehow each one also carries the promise of a new beginning. Standing beside him, Jungkook softly said, I know my words can't erase the past. I've spent too long pushing you away, and for that I am truly sorry. I promise from this day forward to show you and everyone that I cherish you, that I'm proud to be your husband. A hush fell over the audience before applause breaks out, hesitant at first, then growing louder as your classmates digest the unexpected truth. One of your close friends called out, That's incredible. I never would have guessed. It suits you both so well. You exchange a glance with Jungkook, his eyes shimmering with regret, hope, and genuine resolve. In that public moment, the secret is no longer a burden, but a declaration of the love you once thought lost. Later that evening, back in the quiet of your shared apartment, the atmosphere was transformed. The tension that once filled every corner had given way to a fragile warmth. Jungkook sat you down at the dining table, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating his earnest expression. Wyan, I wanted you to know that today wasn't just about telling everyone our secret. It was about admitting to myself that I had been a coward. I was too afraid of commitment, too afraid of the real meaning of love, and in doing so, I hurt you. You looked down at your hands for a moment before meeting his gaze. Your public confession surprised me, not only because our classmates didn't know it was me, but because it was the first time you acknowledged me in front of everyone. It meant more than you realized. He reached out, covering your hand with his own. I promised. Starting then, I wouldn't hide. I would show you every day that you weren't just my wife by arrangement, but my partner, my equal, and the person I loved with everything I had. Your voice was soft but resolute. I needed to see that change, Jungkook. Words are powerful, but I needed the actions to back them up. I wanted us to move forward together without secrets, without indifference. A smile broke over his face, a smile that carried both relief and determination. I vow to prove it to you. I will make up for every moment I made you feel alone. From now on, you will always be at my side, and I will never let fear come between us again. As you both sat there, quietly reaffirming your commitment with gentle promises and honest dialogue, a sense of healing began to seep in. For you and Jungkook, a new chapter had just begun, a chapter filled with hope, authenticity, and the promise that love, when given the chance to flourish, could conquer even the deepest wounds. And so, with every shared coffee, every public declaration, and every small act of genuine care, you both started rewriting your story, a story where forgiveness was earned, pride was set aside, and love was celebrated openly for all to see.